Hi friends, it's another episode. Today we're talking about how we can understand what our emotions are trying to tell us. What are the messages? And in order to do that, it starts with getting really clear, getting really specific, and listening from our hearts and our higher selves and not our ego. So if you want to know how you can understand what messages your emotions have for you, then keep listening. All right, so we're back for another episode. Today, I want to talk about the third step of my framework because I think it is the part that we tend to struggle with the most, and that is listening to our emotions, right? So we can usually notice them. Sometimes we can use practices to honor them, emotional regulation, meditation, other, modalities to try and honor them. But when it comes to listening to them, hearing what they have to say, integrating that, taking action based on that, we tend to struggle the most with it, right? So getting into that, I want to just say, first of all, that nothing I say is meant to elicit any kind of shame. This isn't, you should do this or you should know this. We're all learning together and progressing together. So I want to just say that first off, it's taking me a long time, and it's still a practice, like I always say, but it's taken me a long time to understand my emotions. And by understand them, I mean understand why I feel them when I feel them, right? Because we don't feel fear in every situation. We don't feel anger in every situation. Our emotions are designed to be appropriate to the situation that we're in, where we need to address a certain thing. And so I've spent a lot of time listening, tuning in, really reflecting to see what my emotions are trying to show me and what I can understand from them and what I can take away from them. And every day I learn something new. Like every day I learn, a new thing that I can apply to this framework. So it's not like it's something that we innately know or that we're taught, but we're learning together, right? So when we begin to attempt to listen to our emotions and try to understand them, the first thing is that we need to be specific. We need clarity, right? A lot of the times there is what our ego hears and what our higher self hears. And when I say higher self, I'm not trying to talk about some abstract concept. I'm talking about the part of us that appeals to higher values, the part of us that knows when something's off, our intuition, right? But our ego, right, which is our constructed identity, all the things that we have in our subconscious about who we are based on what we've been told and internalized from other people, our ego hears something too. And the ego's intention is relief. The ego's intention is to seek, freedom from that emotion. It doesn't care about understanding it. It doesn't want to know why we're feeling that way. It just wants to feel better. It just wants to feel different. And so we tend to listen to our emotions from our ego, right? But that doesn't allow us to take action that brings us back into alignment with ourselves. That's not how we become emotionally resilient. In order to become emotionally resilient, we need to understand our emotions and listen to them from a place of a higher self, a connection to belief, a connection to higher values, right? We need to understand that they're here to show us something about the situation that we're in. The other thing that the ego does is it gets bogged down because it doesn't care about, the message. It just wants relief. It gets bogged down with the circumstances. So we get fixated on the external person, place, or thing that we think is responsible for the emotion we're feeling, right? So if I get into an argument with my husband and I get angry, or I feel anger, then my ego tells me that the only way I can find relief from that anger is by him doing something or him changing something, right? It makes him responsible for that anger. It puts all the blame on him. And then I don't learn what that anger has to ultimately show me, which is there a need that I'm not communicating, that I'm unaware of? Is there a boundary that he's crossed that I didn't know I had that I need to set, right? Or am I violating a boundary of his? So that's the difference between what the ego hears and what our spirit hears, what our higher self hears, right? And I mention this because I realized this as I was, doing this work in my own life. I realized that, focusing so much on the external circumstance and trying to change that never brought me any relief. It never brought me any peace, because that's the part that's out of my control, right? And that is where we lead to become disempowered. And that's where we head into hopelessness and helplessness and despair, because we feel out of control. We feel powerless, and we are over those external circumstances. But it's not the circumstance that necessarily has to change first. What has to change first is what's happening within us. And it's showing us, the emotions coming up to show us what's going on within us that needs to get in alignment first before we can do something about the external circumstance. I hope that made sense. But basically, I'm saying it starts on the inside, right? It starts on us getting aligned and getting connected and reckoning with what we're feeling, listening to what that emotion is showing us, and then taking action from there. But when we listen from a place of ego, when we listen from a place of just wanting relief, then the action that we take it doesn't give us the relief we seek, because it doesn't address what's underlying, and B, sometimes it actually causes more harm, right? So we need to be mindful of, am I listening from my ego, or am I listening from my higher self? Am I listening from a place of wanting to just feel better right away as quickly as possible, wanting relief? Or am I listening from a place of trying to understand why this emotion is showing up for me? And when we listen from the latter place, that is when we ultimately grow. And it's through that we find emotional resilience. It's through that we become able to withstand distress, because when that emotion shows up, we know, okay, there's something I need to understand here. So distress does not become this thing, this force that we can't overcome that leads to dysfunction. It becomes a alarm. It becomes a flag. It becomes a caution sign that we use to guide ourselves and to navigate our life. Right? I just want to make it very clear that it is possible to navigate distress. There are people that go through horrendous things, who come out on the other side of it, who go on to use what they've gained from that to help others. And we all have that ability within us. We all are capable of that. It's not a unique thing. It's a human thing, right? But again, we're fighting this ego. We're fighting this conditioning that we have, because we're absorbing things from all different places. And I don't even want to say that as if it's a negative thing, because we're all different, right? And we're all so much more connected with one another. So we're getting everyone's different opinions and ideas and perspectives, everyone's different circumstances. We're getting exposed to that more and more. And so more and more, it is necessary for us to take inventory and assess what beliefs that we've absorbed and what's going on within us, so that we can course correct, so that we can remember, okay, back in my boundary, back in my container, this is who I am, this is who you are, right? And we can collaborate together, right? So what I mean by specific is we tend to notice how we're feeling, and we tend to notice the circumstances around it, but we get fixated on the external story, as I said, and we take what we're feeling at face value. And it really does require going deep, because when we're not clear on what we're feeling, we can't hear what it is that we need to understand. So I'll give an example. If I am frustrated with my daughter, as I often do, because I'm taking care of her, all the time, and I'm not taking care of myself as much, but I'm not aware that I'm not taking care of myself. I think I'm taking care of myself. I'm like, I ate dinner, I brushed my teeth, I did this. right? But there's so much that goes into caring for myself, nurturing myself, having time to, connect with myself and listen and tune in. So if I go a few days without doing that, I'm not aware of that. Eventually I'll hit a point where I get angry when I'm interacting with my daughter. And on the surface, I'm going to think, okay, I'm angry because she's not cooperating. She's not doing what I want her to do, right? That is what we're kind of trained to notice and to see. But what's really happening when I know that anger comes up to show me that a need is missing, and it comes up to show me that a boundary is being violated, then I can tune in and say, okay, am I really angry that she's not doing what she's supposed to do? Why does that anger me? And then I can see that it angers me because it means that I can't go have a minute to myself because I need to take care of her. And I'm angry that I can't have a minute to myself because I need to take care of myself and I've been neglecting myself. And so my anger is showing me that you need to make time for yourself. You need to make time to address this need and to take care of yourself. And maybe I can't do it in that moment, but that awareness, first of all, it makes my daughter not the enemy, right? It makes me not against her. It makes me realize that she is being herself. She's doing what she needs to do. I'm taking care of her, but I forget me, right? And so often what I try to stress with my work is that our emotions are for us. They come up to show us what we need to see. But we tend to make other people responsible, as I mentioned, and that puts us in that combat, right? It's not to say that combat won't exist. I can't let people, cross my boundaries. I have to protect myself. But I can't grow if I'm making other people the source of my emotion, because I can't control other people. Right? That's the biggest thing to take away from codependency is that, codependency is really misunderstood, but essentially it's saying I can't be okay unless I make sure you're okay, or you're okay with how I am, right? And we completely lose ourselves, right? So our emotions show up to show us where we need to make amends to ourselves. When I get angry in that circumstance with my daughter, when I feel anger come up and I realize, what am I truly angry about? And I listen to that. Then I know what I need to do. What I need to do is take care of myself. What I need to do is ask for support from my husband, say I need some time to myself. I've been neglecting myself. Maybe I need to change my schedule and try to put in more time for myself during the week, whatever it may be. But we move through life without noticing so many things. And our emotions are so helpful. They're such gifts to show us what we haven't been noticing, right? I have boundaries that I don't know I have until they're crossed, right? But if I never felt angry, then people might be able to do whatever they want, right? And I would continuously be abused in a sense, right? So listening to our emotions, listening to understand, I should say, what our emotions have to show us requires us really tuning in to what we're specifically feeling, right? What about the circumstance is causing us to feel this? It's not this thing has made me sad. It is what about this thing makes me sad? Why does this make me sad? Right? And from there, we can begin to move forward and take action and know that the action we're taking is actually what we need to grow and not just some arbitrary action to try and feel better as soon as possible. So listening from our higher self, not from our ego, tuning in, getting really specific and clear about why is this situation causing me to feel this way? What is it showing me that I need to do within me? What amends do I need to make to myself? What needs do I need to address? What changes do I need to make? And when we begin to make those internal changes, then we navigate the external in a completely different way, in a harmonious way, in a way that actually moves us forward, that actually allows us to connect with others, that allows us to get ultimately what we want in life, which I believe is joy, peace, harmony across the board, right? But if we never had these flags, these moments of, hey, notice this, and we never listened to really understand why it was trying to get our attention, then we would not really benefit from life. We would not really know ourselves. We would not really be able to know other people. And so trying to shift this perspective, trying to get quiet and tune in, it takes practice. It takes time. This is why I really believe it's important to get help from someone to be able to do this. But we can't just stop at the noticing and the honoring. We really do need to tune in and listen and see what it is we can understand from it that we can do something about, right? The action that we can take is addressing our needs, is communicating them, is, seeking out opportunities to get them, is making amendments within our life, within our actions. That's what we can control. When we get focused on the circumstance and we make other people, places, or things responsible for our emotions, then we'll never be able to move forward because we can't control people, places, and things, right? So I hope that you will spend some time this week listening to your emotions, listening to what comes up, trying to understand why it's specifically coming up for you in that specific moment and getting that clarity. And I really believe that when you get that clarity, you will see and understand what steps you need to take to move forward. So with that, I love you for listening again. I hope you share this with anyone you think might need it. Let me know what you think. Reach out to me on social media, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.